Hello everyone, this is Deepthi. In the previous video of surface chemistry, I have discussed about preparation of colloids and purification of colloids. In today's video, I am going to discuss about the properties of colloidal solution. In this, there are 7 properties in colloidal solution, that is color, Tyndall effect, colligative property, Brownian moment, charge on colloidal particles, electrophoresis and coagulation. These are the 7 main properties are used in colloidal solution. Okay, then let's start today's session. Before that, if you not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. To get regular notification, please click on the bell button. Okay, then let's start. Welcome to Light Up. Properties of colloidal solution. There are 7 properties in the colloidal solution. They are colligative property, Tyndall effect, color, Brownian moment, charge on colloidal particles, electrophoresis and coagulation or precipitation. Let us discuss one by one. The first one is the colligative property. The first one is a colligative property. So, colligative property depends upon the number of particles. The colligative property depends on the number of particles, that is number of absolute particles. So we can say that as the number of particle increases, as the number of a particle increases, so colligative property increases. Therefore, we call it as colligative property increases. Therefore, it is directly proportional. As the number of particle increases, the colligative property also increases. It depends upon mainly the solute particles. Let me take an example for this. So, I am taking here the true solution in the beaker and also the colloidal solution of a same volume, 1 liter of true solution and 1 liter of a colloidal solution. I am taking this. So, true solution, the molecule size in true solution is less than 1 nanometer. Okay, it is less than 1 nanometer. Here, the particle size ranges from 1 to 1000 nanometer, the particle size. Therefore, in the true solution, there are number of particles here. Those are small in size. When I take up the colloidal solution, the particle size is very big. So, among these two solutions, which has maximum colligative property? Here, the colligative property is depending on the number of particles. Therefore, in this two solution, the true solution contain a large number of molecules. That means large number of particles. The colloidal solution, it contains a small number of particles because the colloidal particle is very big. So, the number of particles in this colloidal solution is very small. So, what we can say is that, the colloid has a less number of particles, therefore, it shows less colligative property when compared to the true solution. Therefore, colligative property is maximum in true solution when compared to the colloidal solution. True solution than colloidal solution. This one is important. This is the first property of a colloidal solution. So, let us move on to the second property, that is the Tyndall effect. So, second one is Tyndall effect. Tyndall effect. This one is important. So, Tyndall effect means the scattering of light. The scattering of light by colloidal particles, by colloidal particles in a colloidal solution is called Tyndall effect. So this one is an important definition. Tyndall effect, the scattering of light by colloidal particles in a colloidal solution. So colloidal particles means it ranges from 1 to 1000 nanometer. The size ranges from 1 to 1000 nanometer. So Tyndall effect takes place only if the particle size ranges between 1 to 1000 nanometer. Then only the light gets scattered. This is the definition of Tyndall effect. I'll do an activity for this Tyndall effect which can show the difference between the true solution and the colloidal solution. Here I have taken two beakers. In the first beaker I have added NaCl and water. In the second beaker I have added few drops of milk and water. The first solution we call it as a true solution and the second solution we call it as a colloidal solution. Now let us pass light on this solution and observe what happens on this solution. Let us pass light on this solution. Now I am taking the first solution, that is a true solution. Now I am passing a light on this solution. Look at this. The light completely passes through the solution and forms image on the left hand side. You can see the image on the left hand side. The light is completely traveling through the solution. You cannot observe any path light on the solution. You cannot observe any light path in the solution. Next, I am taking the second solution, that is a colloidal solution. Now I am passing the light on this. Look at this. When you pass the light on this solution, you cannot observe any light on the left hand side. You cannot observe any light on the left hand side because the light is completely scattered in this solution. The colloidal particles which is present in the solution is scattered the light. The colloidal particles present in the solution scatters the light. So you cannot see any image on the left hand side. This is called a Tyndall effect. The scattering of light when the light falls on the colloidal particle is called Tyndall effect. Now I am keeping the two solution on the same line. Now I am passing the light on this. Look at this. The first beaker, true solution, you cannot observe any light path here. But in the second solution, you can see the scattered light. The light is scattering. This is what's a Tyndall effect. So what you observed in the activity, in the true solution, I have taken that NaCl with water and with the colloidal solution, that is milk in water. What you observed in activity, that is when you transmit the light, the light get transmitted completely. But in the colloidal solution, when you transmit a light, the light gets scattered. You can observe that the light gets scattered in the solution. You observe this effect in that activity. What is the indication of this activity means? The scattering of light is taken place only if the particle size ranges between 1 to 1000 nanometer. If the particle size is less than 1 nanometer, the light does not get scattered. This is what you understood by seeing this activity. Then where you will find this Tyndall effect in the nature, where you can observe this Tyndall effect. So you can observe this Tyndall effect in the cinema theatre, in the cinema hall. You can observe the Tyndall effect. In the cinema hall, you can observe the dust and the smoke particles moving around us. So dust and the smoke particle you can observe in the cinema hall. Due to this dust and the smoke particles, these are the colloidal particles, you can observe the light scattered in the cinema hall. That is, during the projection of picture in the cinema hall, during the projection of a picture in cinema hall, you can observe the light rays, the path of light in the cinema hall, right? That is what the Tyndall effect. It is due to the scattering of light. It is due to the scattering. It is due to the scattering of light. This is what we call as a Tyndall effect. You can observe in cinema hall due to the dust and smoke particles which are present in the cinema hall. In the second example, you can see that at the early morning, the sun rays, so entering the window, the sunlight entering the window, you can observe the light rays. It is due to the Tyndall effect, scattering of light. It is due to the dust particles which are present, which scatters the light. So we can observe the light path during the early morning when you look at the windows. So mainly that Tyndall effect is due to the colloidal particles. And also Tyndall effect is observed by satisfying the two conditions. Let us see what are those conditions. The two conditions are, the first condition is the diameter of a dispersed particle. That means a dispersed phase particle is not much smaller than a wavelength of light used. This is the first condition to be satisfied to observe a Tyndall effect. And the second one is the refractive index. The refractive indices of dispersed phase and the dispersed medium differs greatly in magnitude. So this is the second condition. These are the two conditions to be satisfied to observe the Tyndall effect. Okay, then let us move on to the third point, that is color. Third property of colloidal solution, that is color. So color here, it depends on the wavelength of light scattered. The color of the colloidal solution, depends on the wavelength of light scattered by dispersed particle. So what it means, the color of colloidal solution depends on the wavelength of light scattered. At what wavelength the light has been scattered, on that basis we can decide the color of the colloidal solution. You all know that the visible rays, that is VIBGYOR. So VIBGYOR, the wavelength of red light is maximum and violet has a minimum wavelength. Here it depends on the wavelength. The color depends on the wavelength of light scattered. If the wavelength is maximum, then the colloidal solution looks like red color. If the wavelength of light scattered is a minimum, then the solution looks like a violet color. This is how we decide the colloidal solution color. And also the color of the solution, colloidal solution, depends on the size of the particle, depends on the size. It depends on the size. As the size increases, the color of the colloidal solution changes. For example, I am taking the gold sol, that is AU. So gold sol, which is a red in color, As the size increases, it appears purple, then it appears a blue in color, and then finally it appears a golden color. As the size increases, there will be changes in the color. Here the wavelength of the light scattered depends upon the size of the colloidal particle. This is the third property of colloidal solution. Next, let us move on to the fourth colloidal solution. So fourth one is a Brownian movement. Brownian movement. This is the fourth property. Here, what we observe is that the zigzag motion of colloidal particles, zigzag motion of colloidal particles in a colloidal solution. In a colloidal solution is called Brownian moment. What you can observe here, the colloidal particles are moving in the zigzag motion in a colloidal solution is called Brownian moment. This was observed by the British scientist, that is Robert Brown. He observed this zigzag motion by using the ultra microscope. By using ultra microscope, he observed that the colloidal particles are moving in the zigzag manner. They are moving the zigzag manner, and he gave the name a Brownian moment. So his name is a Robert Brown. So the name came as a Brownian moment. The particles are moving in a zigzag motion. Here the movement of the colloidal particles depends on the size. The first condition depends on the size and also the viscosity. And also the viscosity. These are the two main conditions here. Here the size. As the size decreases, the Brownian moment increases. That means the motion of the particle increases. The Brownian moment. The moment of colloidal particles increases. And also the viscosity. So viscosity means it is a measure of a fluid resistance to flow. Viscosity means it is a measure of fluid resistance to flow. So that means, for example, if I take a honey and milk, which can flow very easily. You know that the milk can flow very easily, right? It can flow very easily. So it has a less viscosity. But honey cannot flow very easily. It is difficult to flow. So what we can say is that it has a more viscous or more viscosity. So difficult to flow, here easy, very easy to flow. The example for the viscosity. So by giving this example, you can clearly understand what is viscosity. It is a measure of a fluid resistance to flow. Here viscosity. As the viscosity decreases, the Brownian moment increases. So therefore the size and viscosity is inversely proportional to the movement of a colloidal particles. Okay, the size and also viscosity is inversely proportional to the movement of particles. So the zigzag motion of a particle will be maximum only if the particle size is very small and the viscosity is very low. So this is the important point here, size and viscosity. So next, what is the cause of this Brownian moment? Why the molecules are moving in this zigzag manner? So next one, what is the cause of this Brownian moment? It is due to the unbalanced bombardment. Important one, this one is an important point. So unbalanced bombardment of particles by the molecules of dispersed medium. So these are the important point. What are the causes? What is the causes for a Brownian moment? Means it is due to the unbalanced bombardment of a particle by the molecule of dispersed medium. So what is the meaning of this unbalanced bombardment. So, if I take a colloidal particle, I am taking a beaker which contains a colloidal particle. This colloidal particle is a dispersed phase and the solution is a dispersed medium. What happens means the molecules which are present in the dispersed medium, the molecules of a dispersed medium, I'll show in a different color. The molecules of dispersed medium strikes the colloidal particle, that is bombardment means striking, hitting the colloidal particle which are not balanced, hitting the colloidal particle in unbalanced way. So, now these four molecules, the dispersed medium molecules hitting this colloidal particle upward. So, the colloidal particle moved upward direction. This is how the movement takes place. The zigzag motion takes place due to unbalanced bombardment of a particle by a dispersed medium molecule. If I take one more colloidal particle and the dispersed medium particles, if it hits the colloidal particle in the downward motion, then it moves a downward position. So, unbalancedly it is hitting the molecule. So, if the colloidal particle, now I am showing in a different part. This one is a colloidal particle and the green color as a dispersed medium. If the dispersed medium hits the colloidal particle in the balanced way, then the molecule does not move anywhere. It stands in the same position. The net force here is 0. If the 6 molecules hitting the molecules in the balanced way, so bombarding in the balanced way, then the colloidal particles doesn't move. If the dispersed medium hit the colloidal particles in unbalanced way, then the molecule starts moving. So here the molecules are hitting upward, so the colloidal particle moving upward. If the dispersed medium particle hitting the colloidal particle downward, then the molecules move downward. So this is the main cause for the Brownian movement, that is zigzag motion of a colloidal particle in the colloidal solution. Okay, then let us move on to the next point, that is the fifth point. So fifth one is a charge on colloidal particle. Charge on colloidal particle. So charge on colloidal particle. That means every colloidal particles contains charge. It may be a negative or positive charge. All colloidal particles contain a charge. It may be negative or positive charge. A whole solution contains either a positive or negative charge. The complete solution, if I take a solution, it contains either a positive charge or negative charge. The whole solution contains only a single charge. So, let us see some of the example for positive charge sol, that is the positive charged colloid. So, colloid can also be called as sol, and also negative charge sol. So, these examples are important for the CET examination, the competitive examination. The first example for positive colloidal particle, that is Al2O3 XH2O. So, Al2O3 XH2O means hydrated aluminium oxide. The same way Fe2O3 XH2O and also CrO3 XH2O. Hydrated molecules have written here. And the second one is methylene blue sol. Also an example for positive sol. And third one is hemoglobin Hb. And the fourth one is oxides. So there is the example TiO2 sol, titanium dioxide sol. These are some example for positive charge sol. And the next one is the negative charge sol. The first one is the metals, that is like copper, silver Ag and a gold salt. The second one is metal sulfide salts, that is As2S3. So cadmium sulfide salt, etc. These are some of the salts. And the third one is a starch, gum, a gelatin, clay, a charcoal, etc. These are some of the negative charge salt. So note down this positive salt and negative salt, which are important for a competitive examination. So next, let us see how this colloidal particle gets negative charge or positive charge. It mainly depends on the preferential adsorption of ions. The charge on colloidal particle, the charge on colloidal particle is mainly due to preferential adsorption of ions. So preferential adsorption of ions, if the solution contains, if a colloidal solution contains either positive or negative charge, this colloidal particle can adsorb any one charge from these two. So it mainly depends on the same ion, that is common ion. The colloidal particle adsorb the common ion from this solution. So for example, I'll give an example, then the concept will be clear for you. So for example, I am taking a silver nitrate solution. So I am adding, so first one, so I am taking a potassium iodide solution. For this I am adding AgNO3, silver nitrate solution. Silver nitrate solution is added to potassium iodide. So I'll write the reaction here, AgNO3 plus Ki. So Ki, which is in excess amount, I'm adding this, it acts as a solute. So here the product obtained is, so AgI plus, here AgI is formed, this is water salt, that is colloidal particle, and remaining, what are the other terms remained in this solution is, here AgNO3, which is in the small amount, here Ag is completely combined with iodine. So the remaining one is NO3 minus is remained in the solution, and then excess of K plus, and also I minus, which is present in excess amount, and also I minus is present in the solution. Here Ag, which is in the smaller amount, and NO3 is the smaller amount. This Ag is completely combines with this iodine. So AgI, and the solution contains NO3, K plus and I minus. So now the solution has these three ions and also colloidal salt. Here it contains a colloidal salt, that is AgI. Now this colloidal salt adsorb which ions from these three? So as I said, the common ion is adsorbed on the salt. Then here the common ion is I minus. So the common ion is I minus. Therefore it adsorbed on the surface of AgI. And it forms a negative colloid. This is how the colloidal particle get charged on its surface. This is the first example. Okay, next let us move on to the second example. So one more example. The same way I am taking a beaker. I'll show I'm taking a beaker now, and this I have taken AgNO3 solution. I am adding potassium iodide. So here the potassium iodide, AgNO3 is a solution. Okay, AgNO3 is a solution, and Ki, which is in the smaller amount. So AgNO3 is in the excess form. Now what it forms? So Ag combines with I. So it forms AgI Sol colloidal particle, and remaining ions, let us write here K plus and also AgNO3, which is in the excess amount. So remaining Ag will be in the solution and NO3 minus is also in the solution. The solution contains now K plus, Ag plus and NO3 minus, which are present in the solution, and also the colloidal sol is ready. Now this colloidal particle absorbs which ions from these three? It absorbs the common ion from the solution. That is, common ion for AgI is Ag. So AgI. So it absorbs Ag, which contain a positive charge. So Ag plus. So I'll write here Ag plus, Ag plus, Ag. So it becomes a positive sol. This is how the colloidal particle gets positive charge. Now I am taking same example to give a definition for electrokinetic potential. So how this electropotential is developed? Okay, then I am taking the same example to explain the next concept, that is Helmholtz electrical double layer. Electrical double layer. This is the next concept, Helmholtz electrical double layer. So how the double layer is formed on the surface of the colloidal particles, I will show you here. So here I am taken AgI as a sol, and the solution contains Ag plus, that common ion is adsorbed on the surface of this sol. So Ag plus, Ag plus. So this sol get positive charged. So how it forms a double layer? Next, what happens means, after the positive charge is adsorbed on the colloidal particles, the solution contains negative charge also. So here the negative charge is NO3 minus. This NO3 minus get attracted to the Ag plus. The positively charged NO3 minus is attracted towards this Ag plus. So it forms like this. The second layer will be like this. NO3 minus, NO3 minus. This is the second layer. The first layer is, that is Ag plus, and the second layer formed as N minus, that is NO3 minus. The combination of these two layers of oppositively charged around the colloidal particle is called Helmholtz electrical double layer. The combination of two layers of oppositively charged, that is positive and negative charge, around the colloidal particle. Around the colloidal particle is called Helmholtz electrical double layer. And here the first layer we call it as a fixed layer. So first layer we call it as a fixed layer because it is tightly held on the surface of colloidal particle. It tightly fixed, so we call it as a fixed layer. And the second layer, which is just attracted, it is not tightly fixed to Ag plus. It is just attracted and form a second layer. So we call this as a mobile layer. That means there will be movement in the second layer. So mobile layer or a diffused layer, or we can also call it as a diffused layer, because there is a movement in the second layer, it is not fixed. So due to this oppositively charged, there will be potential developed between these two charges. There will be potential which is developed between these two layers, that is fixed layer and the mobile layer, which we call it as a zeta potential or electrokinetic potential. Let me define that terms now, which is also an important term. So that is electrokinetic potential. Electrokinetic potential or a zeta potential. electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. That means the potential which is developed between two layers. So let me write the definition now. The potential difference between fixed layer and a diffused layer of oppositively charged is called electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. So this is what about the charge on colloidal particles. I hope you all understood that how the colloidal particles get charge on its surface and also about the potential developed between the two layers. Okay, then let us move on to the next point, that is the sixth point. So next, the sixth one is electroporosis. Electroporosis. Again, this is also very important for the examination. So electroporosis, what is the use of this electroporosis? Means it is used to identify the charge on colloidal particles. It is used to identify the charge on colloidal particles. You can identify easily the charge present on the colloidal particle, whether it is positive or a negative. So first let us know about the definition of this electroporosis. The definition is the movement of colloidal particles either to positive electrode or towards the negative electrode. The movement of colloidal particles either towards positive electrode or negative electrode under the influence of electric field. Under the influence of electric field is called electroporosis. This is the definition. Here, by showing the diagram, I'll explain this definition. I am taking the U glass tube which contains a platinum electrode which is connected to the battery. So here one end, it is we call it as an anode, and the other end we take it as a cathode. This is positive. So this platinum electrode is connected to a battery. To this U tube, let us take a colloidal solution. In this U tube, let us take a colloidal solution. On applying the electric current, what happens means, if the colloidal particle in the colloidal solution, I'll show a diagram. If the colloidal particle contains a negative charge, if the colloidal particle is a negative charged colloidal particles, then what happens means, on applying the electric current, these negative charged colloidal particles move towards cathode and deposited on the surface of a cathode electrode. This is the indication that the colloidal particle is a negative. If colloidal particle is a positive, if the colloidal particle in the colloidal solution is positive, then it gets absorbed on the surface of anode electrode, that is anode. So which is the indication that the colloidal particle is positive. This is how we identify the charge on colloidal particle. If the colloidal particles are moving towards the cathode, then it is called as a positive electrode. If colloidal particle are moving towards cathode, that means it has a negative, the solution has a negative colloidal particle. In the same way, if colloidal particle moving towards anode, which indicates that anode means it is negative sign. If it is moving towards anode, then the solution, the colloidal solution contain positive colloidal particle. This is how we identify the charge of colloidal particle. Okay, then let us move on to the 7th point. So this is the last point, that is 7th point, that is coagulation or precipitation. Coagulation or precipitation. That means the process of settling of colloidal particles. The process of settling of colloidal particles is called coagulation or precipitation. That means how the colloidal particle get precipitated. So you all know that I have explained that all colloidal particles contain a charge, that it may be negative or positive charge. The whole solution, if I take a solution, the whole solution contains a same charge. Now I am taking a colloidal particle which is a negative charge. The whole solution contains a negative charge. Okay, here all the colloidal particles are negatively charged. If it contains a negative charge, if I take two colloidal particles nearer, what happens? It repels each other. They won't get attracted. They repel each other. Therefore, they won't get coagulated. The particles are away from each other. Now, if I remove the charged particles, if I remove the charge on these colloidal particles, now I am removing the charge. If it has the same charge, it repels each other. Now, I am removing the charge on colloidal particles. There is no charge on the colloidal particle. What happens means, these both come together. All the particles, if I remove the charge from all the particles, what happens? These colloidal particles are aggregated, come together, it comes nearer and it form a precipitation. They precipitated. This is what I have said here. Coagulation or precipitation means the process of settling of colloidal particles. By removing this charge on the colloidal particle, they become neutral and they combine, they aggregate and settle down here, and they settle down in the beaker. This is what the definition for a precipitation. In the next video, I am going to discuss about this precipitation, how the liophobic salt get precipitated will be discussed in the next video. Okay, then this is all about today's video, that is properties of a colloidal solution. There are mainly 7 properties which are very important for the examination. Those 7 properties are colligative property, Tyndall effect, color, Brownian movement. So charge on colloidal particle, electrophoresis and coagulation, all these 7 are very important. They'll ask for 2 marks questions. So definition of a Tyndall effect, Brownian movement, electrophoresis and coagulation is all important. If you have any doubts, please comment below. If you like my video, please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you.